What's happening? What's happening? Welcome to another double RBT Tuesday. Hey, come on, man. What is your stream preaching? Man, today is Tuesday, so we preaching double RBT Tuesdays, man. Double RBT culture, you know what I'm saying? Yes, sir. Bless the Lord.
Tell me what you like. Every post, every upload, every word reaching. Either building up souls or the whole thing leeching. What you stream preaching? What you stream? Tell me what your vibe feeding. God gave gifts, better watch how you lead with it. Mainline flow, yeah, the kingdom still breathing. Hey. Yeah, every time I hit go live, heaven watching me. Every camera got a purpose, ain't no stopping me. Used to think content was just jokes and popularity.
What's your stream preaching? Come on. What you uploading? And today is Tuesday, so you already know, hey, we building culture. We building relationships. We building the richest registered behavior technicians. Let's go. Some stream death to the youth for comments. Whole generation lost inside the comments. But I ain't trying to preach fake perfect behavior. I'm just saying every platform need a savior. Cause algorithms train minds and shape nature. And influence nowadays bigger than when they drink preaching. Tell me what you live teaching. Every post, every upload, every word reaching. Either building up souls or the whole thing leeching. What you stream preaching? Tell me what your vibe feeding. Real quick, hey, sound check real quick, man. Richest registered behavior technicians, sound check. Did I get a ribbon? Mainline radio, yeah, we building a station. AI songs, live broadcasts, conversations. Create a conjunction hub for the nations. Kingdom-minded artists building collaborations. Submit your music testimony, revelation. Blues, reds, different styles, same foundation. Still shouting God in the middle of innovation. Cause the spirit's still moving through creation. Bless them, Lord, that internet, real estate, digital property, ownership. Build a gate, everybody online. But they moving too late, still renting attention. Instead of building a space, mainline music academy on school. Teach creators how to build and use tools. Not just viral trends trying to look cool, but content with purpose and structure too. Global watching patterns in the ecosystem. Tracking engagement while the creators build wisdom. Not replacing humans, just assisting a vision. Kingdom infrastructure with intentional rhythm. Cause heaven got orders, so we move strategic. Not just emotional movements every season. Broadcast with purpose for spiritual reasons. Cause somebody out there really needing this preaching. What you stream preaching? What your page feeding? What your page feeding? What your content doing when the youth receive it? Mainline flow, what the kingdom still needing? God over everything, best believe it. What you stream preaching? What you dive teaching? Every upload touch so mainline radio spiritual. Bless them, Lord, movement. Yeah, the kingdom still breathing. Welcome to another episode of Double RBT Tuesdays, man, where we are building the richest registered behavior technicians. And let's go ahead and put it out there real quick off top. We're not talking about money. We are talking about rich in knowledge, rich in compassion, rich in professionalism, rich in leadership. You know, that's what we're talking about, man. We are building the richest registered behavior technician culture. Culture is developing. Hey, y'all, give me 1 second. Let's put on some music real quick, man. Hey, what y'all talking about? We talking about behavior too, okay? We are talking about behavior, but let me go ahead and put this on because y'all know I like some good soft music in the background. And for some strange reason, do you guys know I just did a stream? I just restreamed this. And what ended up happening was because I like playing, with voice mods and stuff like that. We're also have that incorporated to it, to where those of you guys who are looking to become creators, content creators, or become a part of the mainline movement, become a part of the richest registered behavior technician culture, where you want to do content, and it is some of these things as far as, you know, streaming, that I can be able to teach you guys and share, you know, with you guys on it. So let me go to the library real quick, man. Let me put some soft music on in the background. And we gonna bust this thing down real quick. I mean, we gonna do it again, because sometimes, just like running trials, sometimes it's repetitive. You gotta do it over and over and over and over. But guess what? Each and every single time that you do it, there's something that's been brought out, something that's been perfected, something that's been, well, I ain't gonna necessarily say perfected, but you're getting to a place where they're more confident, they're more independent, which is our goal, right? So, instrumentals, let's put these on real quick. And that way we can go from here. There we go. All right. Real quick, man. Welcome to the channel, man. Welcome back to another double RBT Tuesday. Welcome back to another double RBT Tuesdays. And look, hey, real quick, let's go ahead and give a quick recap, you know, of what's actually been going on so far in the community. You know, we are on episode 9. We're on episode 9. I don't know if you guys missed episode 1 through 8, but we are on episode 9. You know, we have introduced the characters. We had we started off with Little Johnny, and we know Little Johnny means business, right? Little Johnny, he means business. And then we started off with we started off with Little Johnny mean business. And then, you know, we created Isabella. You know, once we created Isabella, we said, come on, Isabella, you know, because we are developing, you know, the clinic. And let me go ahead and bring this out there, bring this to you guys' attention, so you can understand that this in no form, in no fashion, is related to anything that has to do with actual clinic procedures, with clinical, you know, information. This is just me, you know, being an RBT for a long time, being able to kind of like recap, you know, some of my experience and put them into a way that I can, you know, pretty much share and help develop, you know, culture, you know, it's been felt, you know, throughout the whole wide world when it becomes to culture of us being the richest registered behavior technicians. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Yeah. So, and then after that, who did we create? We created Little Johnny means business. You know, we got Isabella, and Isabella, she's, you know, just, you know, cute. She tries to win you over, you know, with her lips and her soft, gentle voice. And then from there, we got what's her name? Rambo. You know, Rambo, you know, he's a strategic thinker. You know, he's always thinking, trying to be 10 steps ahead, because he's playing mental chess, you know, with everything that we do. He's calculating, he's watching each and every single thing that we do. We got to be very attentive, you know, to our learners, because as we're learning, our kiddos, you know, they are actually learning us. So I don't know if you guys have missed it. You know, episode 1, we was talking about clinic versus in-home therapy. Do you like clinic therapy, or do you like in-home therapy? You know, and what is your reasons why? You know, me, I like both. You know, I actually genuinely, you know, I like both, because they both serve their own individualized purposes, you know. So especially when it comes to contriving opportunities or opportunities that are available. Episode 2, teaching toleration. Episode 2, we're teaching toleration. Episode 3, we was giving our learners time to process, because we gotta understand that sometimes our learners, they don't quite process some of these SDs as we are delivering them to them, where they understand what we're saying. That's why we have to make sure that they're actually adherent, they're present in that moment. That's how we can collect good data. You don't want to say, hey, you present an SD and little Johnny, he ain't even paying attention to you, and then you mark incorrect. Well, he wasn't even paying attention to you for you to understand what you was asking him to do, to see if he had that skill or not, if he remembered that skill, to see where he's at with that. 4, when culture walks into the clinic, which is very important, because we all come from different backgrounds, different ethics, and people have different ways of doing things. And the interesting thing about that is, when culture enters a clinic, meaning that we're diverse as RBTs, clinicians, the kiddos that are coming in there, into these clinics, they're diverse in some of the backgrounds, and there are cultural differences. And that's why it takes for us to have communities such as this, to where we can kind of, rationalize, things and have a better understanding of what actually works. Because if we don't understand different cultural differences, then it's hard for us to actually give good therapy. And that's something that you would learn once you start going into your studies, supervision students and stuff like, supervision students. Y'all gotta bear with me too. I ain't gonna lie. Y'all, I just put a lot of energy into doing this stream, and come to find out that my voice mod was on, so it had me sounding like, I'm like, sometimes when you play with the kiddos, that might be cool, but not in this actual setting. So episode 5, in the clinic stories, just talking about things pertaining to the clinic, which definitely like I'm losing my words all of a sudden. I ain't gonna lie, like I'm losing my words. You know what? Hold on. Let me do this. Like I'm losing my words all of a sudden. Let me remove them teeth, remove them diamonds out of my mouth. How about that? But so I did want to do something different today. So where we at? We on episode 5. We start bringing clinic to telling the stories. That's when little Johnny, little Rambo, and Isabella, they really started becoming a part of the double RBT culture. Like you said, I am actually looking to add another character into this, as it becomes more production, more characterized, more culture, to where we can use these things as teachable, relatable moments where we can kind of bounce up off of our ideas. And we have different characters, of course, that everybody falls in love with. Oh, I like Little Rambo for this reason. I like Little Johnny for this reason. Isabella for this reason. And then some of the ideas that you guys would have. Me personally, I know that I do want to add another one. So maybe this week we probably would be adding another character to it. Episode 6. What was episode 6 about? Let me go to my notes real quick. Let me go to my notes. Episode 6 was about building the double RBT community. Episode 6 was about building the double RBT community. You know what we're actually doing here now. Matter of fact, let me say this real quick too. Right now, you know, just because like even on this stream, it's not really anybody too much up in here. But of course, I'm gonna continue to make the content until we start having people in the room. That's when we can start having these live discussions, you know. So right now, this is part of the content making process. This is part of the refining, part of the developing, you know, to see what's to come, you know, part of the training, you know, for myself to better learn this and understand this, you know, how this actually works. So episode 7 was learning through little Johnny, and then episode 8 was learning through Isabella. And you know, obviously, you guys stay tuned for the next episode. We will be learning through little Rambo, learning some of his chess moves, some of his ideologies, and the way that he thinks, because our kiddos are learning. They have minds. They think they are people just like we are, and we got to be very attentive. That way we can give and provide some of the best therapy possible, right? So that was a quick little recap looking back. Now let's go into our discussion real quick, right? So I want everyone in the comments to answer this. What has been your biggest lesson as an RBT? Was it the pairing process? You know, was it being able to just naturally and comfortably communicate, you know, with the kiddos? Sometimes it's hard, especially when you are having cultural differences, especially when you are not really just used to always dealing with children, and then, you know, dealing with kids, you know, who are special needs, you know, when they, you know, kids that are on the spectrum. It could be, you know, a little, it can be different, you know, it can be totally different. So what has been some of your biggest lessons as an RBT? Was it the patience? Was it learning to work with the families? You know, was it learning to stay calm, especially this one right here, during challenging behaviors? Was it learning to stay calm when there were actual challenging behaviors that was taking place? Because this is what I learned. You know, the best RBTs, they never stop learning. They never stop asking questions. They always admit their mistakes. The only way that you're gonna actually learn is when you are able to humble yourself and admit to your mistakes and become teachable. That's when you are learning. Because if you figure out that you know everything and you can't be corrected because of where you are in your knowledge, where you are in your age, where you are with some of the siblings that you have, with some of the cousins, some of the babysitting adventures that you've been, some of the classrooms that some of you guys have taught in. Yes, you still have to be teachable, because I'm gonna tell you guys this. Sometimes this is why it's very important to read the BIP, to read the intervention plans, because we need to understand exactly what is being taught in that moment and what is being looked for by those who are writing the intervention plan, which is RBCBAs. We don't know exactly what they're targeting. That's why communication is key. You know, what is the analyst trying to develop right there by this skill that you don't understand, and where you might feel like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna just do it my way right now because it's easier. I understand it might be easier to do it your way, but that is not what becoming one of the richest registered behavior technicians would do. You have to sit back and learn, and even though it might be uncomfortable for you in that moment, because you're having to put pride to the side and having to look and say, you know what, hey, I don't understand this. Sometimes that's hard for us to sit back when we're in therapy and we're dealing with kids to say, I don't understand something. And it's because, look it, we don't understand exactly in that moment what the analyst is trying to build at that moment, what the analyst is trying to teach in that moment. So we have to go to the analyst and we have to teach them, we have to speak with them and say, hey, what is it that you're trying to bring out in this moment that can help me better run this intervention, where I can understand the why I am doing this? Is very important, you guys. So look it, let's go ahead and like I said, so what is some of the biggest lessons that you guys have learned as an RBT? You know, So understanding. I also want to challenge the experienced clinicians as well. BCBAs, hey, I got a question for you guys too. You know, because I know some of you guys have been doing this for years, but the question is this, it's simply this. What advice would you give someone who's in their first month? What advice would you give somebody who's in their first month? Because remember, somebody had to help us as well. Somebody had to help us too. We didn't always know. Somebody had to encourage us. Somebody had to inspire us on our journey to where we could become potentially, right, the richest registered behavior technicians, where we grew out of that stage, and now we have advanced to the next level. We have took that leap. But it takes each one to teach one, right? And that's what we're doing here. We're building community, right? This is why I created the double RBT Tuesdays, not to pretend like I know everything. I need you guys to understand that right now. This is why we're here, so I can bounce up off you guys some ideas, where I can learn from you guys some things, where I can see how you guys are seeing things, and we can come together, having a community, having a central place where we can speak and we can talk and we can be comfortable with each other, right? So a place simply where we can grow together, a place where new RBTs, this is very important, where new RBTs don't feel embarrassed to ask questions, where experienced clinicians enjoy mentoring, where families can learn, okay? This is very important, right? So let's make sure, right, that this is a place, you know, where people come together, where they can be comfortable no matter what stage they are at, whether it's a tadpole, whether it's a tree frog, whether it's a bullfrog, or whether it's a frog master. No matter what stage you're at, we want to make sure that everybody is comfortable and everybody is welcome as we are building the richest registered behavior technician culture is developing, y'all. And look it, I want you guys to understand, man, there is a lot of more reels, ideas, and I really hope you guys have been enjoying the content, because I've been having a ball. Making the content. I've been enjoying making the content, right? So this is also a place, right, where students who are preparing for certification, they feel important. This is why, like we said, professionalism, when we're building the richest registered behavior technician, this is a place right here, and especially people are coming here because this is something that we're taking serious. I want you guys to understand, look at, this is something that we are taking. When we talk about culture is being developed, we are taking this profession, we are taking being the richest, okay? Not rich in money. We talk about rich in love, rich in compassion, you know, rich in service and professionalism, rich, you know, to, hey, look at, rich to that intervention plan, rich to writing it, and rich to developing it, and rich to performing what that intervention plan is. This is what the richest registered behavior technician is. This is what culture genuinely, truly is, okay? So we're building more than content. I need you guys to understand that. Say it with me. We are building more than content. We are building culture. That's what we're building. We're building culture. The richest registered behavior technicians, we are building culture, okay? And it's been developed. So real quick, in closing, all right? In closing, right? Give me 2 more minutes. In closing, right? I want everyone watching to answer one question. One question. Everybody who's watching, I want you to answer this one question. What kind of RBT do you want to become? That is the question that I want to ask you guys right now. What kind of RBT, what type of registered behavior technician do you want to become? And look it, I'm not asking what type of credentials do you want. I'm not asking what type of credentials do you want, okay? I'm asking what kind of RBT do you want to become? What type of leap are you trying to, develop and you're trying to go into? Like I said, anybody who knows me, any of my BCBAs, they have known off top. I have always said before I take the next leap that I want to become the best RBT possible before I take the next leap. I want to know all that I can potentially know, to where I have completely exalted myself as an RBT to where now I can actually move to the next level. And this is not because I do have a master's in ABA. That doesn't mean that now I am actually qualified now to be. It means I'm closer. That means I have gotten better. That means I have studied a little bit more. That means I'm a little bit more knowledgeable, but it doesn't mean. That's why I'm asking, and each person is different. This is me. I'm telling you guys how I look at this. I want to become a good RBT, a good, well-seasoned RBT first, you know? So I'm not asking you, where do you want to work? I'm asking you simply, what kind of RBT do you want to become? Because we're talking about the impact, you know, that you want to leave on the families and the learners that you serve. You know, what kind of impact are you trying to leave on the kiddos, the families that you serve? This is what I'm saying. So if this community, real quick, you guys, look at, like I said, 2 minutes, if this community, if it has helped you, please invite another RBT next Tuesday. Invite another RBT to share and you know, into the content. You know, share the content. As you guys are seeing some of the content that's been built, you know, as we're talking about, you know, into the clinic, talking about little Johnny, some of his behaviors, talking about Isabella and some of their behaviors, talking about little Rambo and some of his behaviors, you know. Share, you know, that way we can start developing more discussion based upon them type of things. And then when we come into our double RBT Tuesday discussions, now we like, hey, little Johnny was doing this, and these are all, look at, let me tell you guys, this stuff is all done and put out there for conversational purposes. In no fashion, in no means does this have anything to do with what's really going on in the clinic. In fact, I don't even work in the clinic no more. You know, so these are stories. I want you guys to understand, these are just stories that I'm putting together, you know, to be relatable, so we can develop conversation about, you know, being the richest registered behavior technician, right? So like I said, man, I want to invite you guys, you know, to invite other RBTs, you know, into our programming, you know, because this is something that, look, collectively we all can build and be a part of. You know, each one teach one, all right? So make sure, look it, share the stream, yo. Hey, look it, and another one, hey, y'all follow Mainline Radio, you know what I'm saying? If you guys are into some good, clean music, follow Mainline Radio. And look here, let's continue building, man. The richest registered behavior technician, one hop at a time, man. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. This is the double RBT culture. Culture is developing, man. Make sure y'all stay good. Y'all stay blessed, man. And we're going to continue to keep this thing going, continue to keep this thing rocking. More content is coming. More content is being developed. And guess what? I want you guys involved. Man, I want you guys involved. This is something that we should be doing. We're going to be doing. It's something that we're going to be doing collectively together, all right? So y'all definitely, man, stay good, stay blessed, man. We are coming to the end of this stream, man. Hey, wait, can I get a ribbon? Can I get a ribbon before we get up out of here? Yes, indeedy. That is the end of our stream, man. Make sure y'all stay connected. See you next time. See you next Tuesday.